first of all, before the prisoners were released, we had the news that hundreds of crime victims weren't actually told of their perpetrators' early release. Almost 1,700 prisoners were due to be freed, of course, as part of a scheme to ease prison overcrowding, and hundreds of victims of these criminals were not told that these people were getting out. And one of those who was told was the mother of this woman here, who's called Dion, and Dion is from Newcastle, and I've had email correspondence with Dion, and that guy that you can see in the bottom left there is her son, that Gordon he was called, and Gordon was murdered with a big blade, one of those zombie knife type things, and the thug who actually, well, was involved in his murder is let out. So she's lost her child. He's gone forever. And this guy gets out on early release. And someone who paralysed a baby, well, he's out as well. So, we ain't letting out our best. And that's proven by today's news. Well, just news earlier today, actually, earlier this afternoon. An inmate has been rearrested.
One man was immediately rearrested by police at the prison gate. One man was immediately rearrested by police at the prison gate.
At the prison gate! At the actual sodding gate! Rearrested on suspicion of rape and sexual assault, literally seconds after being released under Keir Starmer's early prison release scheme. And then you think, well, maybe Labour will think about this and they'll think, well, could we potentially have done the wrong thing? We're not too proud to admit when we've made a mistake. They've got an idea. Shabana Mahmood, who is this woman here, who is Justice Secretary, Shabana Mahmood has said that she told the House of Commons at the dispatch box that if there's no room left in bail hostels or community accommodation, well, no problem. We're going to stick former convicts in hotels, the same ones that, of course, the British people can't afford to stay in for a weekend break. And apparently, instead of actually addressing overcrowded jails or sorting out proper housing for offenders, and it doesn't have to be nice, as far as I'm concerned, it could be the Bibby Stockholm. The solution is to treat criminals to a taxpayer-funded staycation. I said, brilliant. We've got veterans sleeping rough, yet we're booking hotels for inmates. What an absolute farce. So that's Shabana Mahmood's bright idea. I just wonder, where do you think this will end, Alex? Because ultimately, the Labour Party, they aren't going to be able to build the prisons fast enough. They're not sorting out anything for asylum claims, and they're not asylum seekers, as we all know. They are gimmigrants. So these gimmigrants are going to be sent up and down the country in council housing, whilst there's a housing shortage. It's chronic housing shortage in this country. Many single mothers looking to get on the housing ladder themselves, social housing so they can have a bedroom for their child or whatever else. And they can't access them, but these immigrants are going to get them. And now hotels for these former inmates that are getting out of prison early. Just what the hell is the country going to look like after 5 years of this?
It's absolutely shocking. I couldn't believe when I saw that headline in the Daily Mail today. I couldn't believe it. I mean, first of all, if there's one of him, how many more are there?
Exactly.
Because it's the net. How big is the net, and how many are going to slip through? There's thousands being released onto the streets today, yesterday, and throughout the next month, celebrating, popping. It's disgraceful. I'm furious. I'm furious. We can find space and we can build hospitals in record time during COVID, but we can't seem to have enough space and energy to build temporary prison accommodations for some reason. I mean, a bit of barbed. I don't care. The prisons aren't meant to be nice. They're meant to be punishment. But the reality is we have 10,000 foreign criminals in our prisons, and the easy solution would be to deport them all today. Get them all out of our country immediately. Yeah. I don't want those people here. I don't want my tax money being paid for foreign criminals to sit in prisons. God knows what kind of crimes they've committed. Get them out of my country. That's all I have to say about it. Is that is our easy solution to the overcrowding in our prisons. Stop letting foreign criminals face justice in our country when they will get, because the only reason they're allowed to stay is because people like Keir Starmer want them to have an easier justice system than the one they'll face going back home. Simple as that.
I mean, Germany have said they're going to ignore ECHR rulings. Why on earth couldn't the British just have done that? We're such a bloody weak nation. It's pathetic. But Chloe, did you know the story of Tom Roberts, who was an aspiring Royal Marine, and Tom was murdered he was working as a bouncer outside of a nightclub. And he was murdered by some bloke from Afghanistan with a machete. Now, this bloke had been through Europe, 2 countries in Europe, and he had murdered some, I believe, actually 2 people in Serbia. And he went through 2 countries in Europe. Both of those countries said, no way, Jose, get out. So off he tots, and he ends up in Britain. He says he's a child, and we let him into a school. He's caught with a knife. He's suspended from school. 2 days before he commits the murder, he's caught with a machete. The police let him out. And then 2 days after that, of course, he murders the aspiring Royal Marine Tom Roberts. And he's in prison for 29 years. Are you happy for your taxpayer money to be keeping someone at His Majesty's pleasure for 29 years when actually we could just send the bastard back to Afghanistan?
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely disgusting. I am fed up of seeing more and more of these stories. Innocent, aspiring Marine, as you said, someone who wanted to defend our country and is proud of our country. He sadly lost his life because our government can't be bothered to have a border. This guy never should have been in the country in the first place, let alone sitting for 29 years in our prisons, being housed and fed at the taxpayer's expense. Now, I know that they say that, oh, you can't send someone back to a dangerous country. And yes, Afghanistan is a dangerous country. But I'm sorry, if you've murdered someone, I don't give a toss. You can go to hell.
Quite right.
You deserve to go back to Afghanistan as punishment for what you've done. How dare you think that you've got the right to be housed and fed in this country at the taxpayer's expense after you've literally murdered someone who's not just an innocent British citizen, but someone who wanted to work hard to defend our country.
Yeah, I mean, Eunice, if I went over to Iran and I murdered someone, what do you think they would do to me?
Yeah, well, your punishment would be hanging, so they'll hang you because it's a death penalty there.
That's cheaper.
But then the only problem with deporting that guy back to Afghanistan is that he'll probably go back to Afghanistan. They will release him, and he will try to find a way to get back to the UK. And he would rip up his passport and come in with a different identity. So unless we can make sure that we deport these people back to their own country and they will face punishment back in their own country, then it's very hard to say, because I know if he goes back to Afghanistan, he will make his way back into Europe somehow, and he will murder someone else. So maybe it's better just to keep him in the prison here to avoid.
Well, Oz says it costs us £4.2 million. Yeah. 4.2 million.
Easy solution to that, by the way, Eunice, is we fingerprint them. We ID them, and we put that out to Europe.
Oh, Alex, hang on. Hang on. The 2 countries in Europe that he went through did do that, and we sent off his fingerprints to those countries. But guess what? The Home Office didn't ask those 2 countries to follow up on those fingerprints and check them against their records. They had the fingerprints. So actually, and the ECHR said that the British state, didn't know that there was a significant risk to life by this individual. He carried a fucking machete around with him, like his bastard Rambo.
Look, I just don't understand. Wasn't it the punishment for carrying a knife like 10 years in prison or something? Or machete? I'm pretty sure that was the law.
To get time in prison, but I don't.
But he should be able to carry a machete because he's a poor refugee in racist Britain, and he needs to have something on him to defend himself when all us far right fascists go and attack him.
No, well, I just don't understand that. Why wasn't he arrested the first time around and thrown in prison before he could kill?
I genuinely have no idea, but you'll never find out, Eunice, because the inquiry has been scrapped. The ECHR, European Convention on Human Rights, said that Article 2 hasn't been breached, and therefore.
But I reckon if it was a far right guy, we would not stop hearing about it for like 20 years. From 20 years, like the same way the Stefan. I've forgotten the guy's name. Sorry, but there was a black man murdered in the 90s. What was his name? Stefan something?
Oh, Stephen. Oh God, Lawrence. Was it Lawrence?
Yeah, Lawrence. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and we still hear about it. Look, it was an atrocious murder. Yeah, but 30 years later, we're still having documentaries made about it. But then this guy gets killed. No one talks about it. Why? Because it's Afghan illegal immigrants that got into this country. Where's the documentary about the murdered person? It's just ridiculous, you know?
Yeah, it makes me very sad. I feel for the family because they're absolutely heartbroken that there's not going to be an inquiry into this. Have you got what it takes to be a reasoned presenter? Well, send us a short clip of yourself to join@reasoned.uk and we might be seeing you on this very channel very soon indeed.